the water cycle. Now, what is happening in a water cycle is, let's try to understand that. This is a water body, which is like a lake or a sea, or it could be a river. The water is evaporated. The water is evaporated from oceans, lake and stream, and transpiration from plants and respiration also evaporates water into the atmosphere. Then all these water vapors, they get cooled by the process of condensation and forms cloud. Then, with more transpiration, the clouds eventually burst and fall off as rain, as precipitate, and gets into a surface runoff or into the water bodies. And again, they evaporate and the cycle continues. So, water cycle consists of evaporations, transpiration, respiration, condensation, and precipitation. And again, the cycle starts. In evaporation, water is evaporated from the water bodies like sea, lakes, etc. to form water vapors. In transpiration, the water vapors are also lost from the surface of the plant. In respiration, it is producing water vapors and it is lost in the form of water vapors. In condensation, the water vapors from all the above sources cools and condense to form clouds. And in precipitation, when the clouds get full, the fall of the rain and the cycle continues. Okay, now let's do another cycle, which is a carbon cycle. Now, carbon cycle is easy. It's just photosynthesis, respiration, combustion, decomposition, fossilization. There's a carbon dioxide in the atmosphere taken by the plants for photosynthesis. So the carbon dioxide is used up by the plants for photosynthesis. Then the plant is eaten by the animals and the decomposers. All of them respire and returns the carbon dioxide back. And all of them can die and form fossil fuels. And then when the fossil fuel burns, it again releases carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere. So the first stage is photosynthesis, which is taking away the carbon dioxide. Respiration, combustion, decomposition, and fossilization is giving carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere, and the cycle continues. Okay. Now, next is a very important concept, which is decomposition. What are decomposers? Decomposers are the microorganism that breaks the dead and decay materials into simple components. They are very important as they return the nutrients and minerals back into the atmosphere. So when plant and animals die, it is the decomposers that breaks the dead and decaying plant and animals into simple components which are recycled in the atmosphere. Now, for the decay to happen, oxygen, warm conditions, and moist conditions are required. The decay process forms methane, which can be used as fuel, and decay process also produces compost, which can be as a manure. So decomposition is a very important step for sustaining the ecosystem. Now, what is biodiversity? When we're talking about the ecosystem, we're talking about the biotic factors, and the major thing that comes to our mind is biodiversity. Biodiversity is the measure of number of different species in an area. Greater the biodiversity, more stable is the ecosystem and less dependency on the other organism. Now, why is biodiversity important? Biodiversity is important to make the ecological balance, as one species is dependent on the other. It is required for medicine, like medicinal plants. It is required for agriculture and poultry. It is required to maintain ecotourism. Now, since species are dependent on one another, if one species is affected, it can affect the entire population. Now, what are the major threats of biodiversity that we have? The biggest threat is deforestation, which is caused due to rapid population growth, where we are clearing up the forest for making industries and homes, which is causing habit change, climate change, and global warming. Population growth leading to reforestation and monoculture. Agriculture increasing food demand, causing monoculture, causing reduction in the gene pool. And industrialization due to increasing population size. So these are the biggest threat we are facing with the biodiversity. Now, as with the human activities, there is a lot of pollution that is there. And the biggest pollution threat is the air pollution. Now, the biggest contributor of the air pollution is the acid rain. Now, what exactly is acid rain? Now, we know that fossil fuels, they are made up of carbon, and at times they have sulfur and nitrogen. Now, carbon, when burns, forms carbon dioxide, sulfur forms sulfur dioxide and nitrogen dioxide. Carbon dioxide, it contributes to global warming. But sulfur dioxide and nitrogen dioxide, they come and they react with the rainwater. And as the sulfur dioxide reacts with rainwater, it forms sulfuric acid. And when nitrogen dioxide reacts with the rainwater, it forms nitric acid. And they fall off as an acid rain. And what effect they're doing? They're making the soil acidic, damaging trees and the aquatic life. They're corroding the building and eroding the rocks. So you can see in this, the acid gases are released into the atmosphere. They are carried up by the winds. They combine with the water droplets, form the acid rain, and this acid rain destroys plants, pollutes water sources and soil, and erodes the building. Now, how we can get away with this problem? To get away with this problem, we should decrease the use of fossil fuel, treat the waste to remove nitrogen and sulfur before evolving into the atmosphere, and use alternative sources of energy. Okay, so I hope the process of acid rain, its effect and prevention is clear to you. Now, another contributor of air pollution is smog. You can see at time you see a dimming effect in the atmosphere. This is because of the nitrogen dioxide and the sulfur dioxide particulates in the lower atmosphere. They're depleting the ozone layer, causing dimming effect, lowering the Earth's temperature. And if these are inhaled, they cause damage to lungs, respiratory problems, and the cardiovascular diseases. Now, next after the air pollution comes the water pollution. And the biggest cause of water pollutions are the fertilizers and the agricultural waste. They get washed away and go into the nearest water body. As they go into the nearest water body, they causes an algal bloom. And you must have seen at times the water body is covered with green scum. This is an algal bloom. This algae forms a layer of water, layer on top of the water, cutting the light coming in, and it stops the photosynthesis. Since light is not received, the plants die. When plants die, the oxygen content of the water decreases, and then the death of plant also causes the death of other species which are dependent on plant, and then they all die, and then the decomposers come in which try to decay this and further decreases the oxygen in the water body, thereby depleting the water body with the oxygen. And this whole process is eutrophication, causing the death of the aquatic life. And this is what is a major contributor to water pollution. Apart from eutrophication, another problem is the biomagnification. You can see here the lake has become toxic because of some chemical waste. When this chemical waste is eaten by the fish, the toxic level increases. When this harmful component passes along the food chain, its toxic level keep on increasing. This is known as biomagnification. So as the toxic products go along the food chain, the concentration of the toxic chemical increases. Next is the land pollution. The land pollution contributors are the solid waste like plastic, metals, and other man-made chemicals that fills the landfill site, and the chemicals that comes from industries and the agricultural side, or the agricultural waste, which are the spray of insecticide, pesticides, weedicides, which contributes to land pollution. Now, this is what all the pollutions are doing to the human body. Air pollution, water pollution, soil contamination with the pesticides. It is causing nerve damage, ozone layer depletion, cardiovascular illness, respiratory illness, cancer risk, skin irritation, gastroenteritis, and a host of other problems. So it is very important that the pollution's effects are understood and steps are taken to mitigate the same. Now, the important contributor to everything is deforestation. How is deforestation caused? It is caused by rapid cutting of the trees due to rapid industrialization, population growth and urbanization, clearing of the forest for making homes and industry, and increase in agriculture to grow food and fuel crops. So you can see that the carbon dioxide is being increased when we cut the trees. Okay, and the nutrients, the agricultural waste is causing the flushing of the nutrients, and it is causing the water pollution, and this cutting of forests is contributing to climate change. So deforestation is the cause of many different problems. Now let us look at what are the effects of deforestation. So deforestation is causing increase in carbon dioxide level, causing global warming and climate change. It is causing loss of biodiversity due to habitat destruction, and it is also causing extinction of species because due to rapid climate change, the species are not able to adapt themselves. Now there's another important concept of peat bog destruction. Now what is a peat?
Now, it is a plant material that is not decayed due to acidic conditions or the conditions not favorable for decay. And it forms peatlands and peat bogs, and they are the massive storehouse for carbon, and they host many other organisms. Now, this peat is a unique carbon store. It is the habitat of many microorganisms and plants and animals that can survive in acidic condition, and peat can be used as fuel. Now, due to the destruction, due to deforestation, there's a reduction in peat bog, causing loss of biodiversity, and it takes millions of years to form, and it is also the threat to the biodiversity. Now, what is a greenhouse effect? Now, if you look at this diagram, the solar radiation comes to the Earth atmosphere and the Earth reflects it back. Now, most of the radiation is not allowed to reflect back. Some of the infrared radiation passes through the atmosphere, some is absorbed and re-emitted in all directions by greenhouse gas molecule. The effect of this is to warm the Earth's atmosphere and lower the atmosphere temperature. So you can see that when the Earth rays are coming, they are reflected back, but this blanket is being formed by the greenhouse gases, which are mainly carbon dioxide, methane, and water vapor, and it is not allowing the infrared radiation to reflect back, and they are emitted back into the Earth's atmosphere, causing the heating. This is a greenhouse effect. But this greenhouse effect is increasing because of the increase in concentration of carbon dioxide due to rapid deforestation. And what it is causing a climate change, habitat loss, floods, change in migration of birds, change in distributions of plants and animals, changing in the seasonal pattern, and loss of biodiversity, causing extinction of species. So you can see in this diagram that the Earth's temperature has risen about 1 degree in the last century, and the past 50 years of warming has been attributed to the human activities. And what are those human activities? Burning fuels such as coal, natural gas, and oil produces greenhouse gases in excessive amount. Greenhouse gases are emissions that rise into the atmosphere and traps the sun energy, keeping heat from escaping. Now, most of the world's emissions are attributed to the United States, large-scale use of fuels, vehicles, and factories. And some predictions for local changes include increasing in summers and intense thunderstorm, damaging storm, droughts, and related weathers and phenomena are attributed to this greenhouse effect. So you should know what is greenhouse effect, how it is attributing to global warming, and what are the consequences of that. So you should elaborate these points properly. Now, since now we have seen that biodiversity is very important to us, and there are many ways in which biodiversity is at threat, we should maintain the biodiversity. Now, how we can maintain the biodiversity? First, we can do in situ conservation. In situ conservation is protecting the endangered species in their own natural habitat, like making national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, making biosphere reserves. And in these in situ conservation, we also carry out breeding programs, and these breeding programs are caused to increase the population of endangered species. In ex situ conservation, we make protected areas where conservation is connected, like zoos, botanical garden, tissue culture, seed banks, and gene bank. Then we can prevent the deforestation and the combustion that can reduce the carbon emission, and we can recycle and use alternative sources of energy, which can reduce the dependency on the fossil fuel, reducing the carbon emission, preventing global warming, climate change, and its effect. Now, the last topic that we need to do is food security. What is food security? Food security, people say, is growing sufficient healthy food to feed the population, but it's not the complete definition. Food security is growing sufficient healthy food to feed the population and accessibility of the population to grow or buy that healthy food. Now, there are a lot of factors that is affecting food security. First is population growth. Rapid population growth make it difficult to make this food available to all. Inclination towards unhealthy and easy to cook food, junk food, spread of diseases, pest and insect attack to the crop, climate change, acid rain and pollution, water pollution, increase in cost of agriculture supply, and the food versus fuel. These are all the factors that are affecting food security, and you should know and elaborate all these factors. So, to maintain food security, we should do efficient food production. And how we can do that? First, we can increase more plant-based products, because plants are lower in the food chain, so they have highest biomass and highest energy. So when we use plant-based products, they reduces the dependency on animal products and gives more energy. Second, if we reduce the level of food chain and either eat the herbivore or the plant-based product, then we can get maximum energy. Or we can use intensive farming. Now, in intensive farming, animals and plants are grown in a greenhouse or a proper controlled conditions so that we can limit the energy loss and produce maximum biomass. Now you can see in this figure, the chickens are grown with the restricted movement so that when they move, they do not lose the energy. We rear them at a constant temperature so that they do not lose energy in maintaining the body temperature. We give them easy to digest food so that they don't waste energy in digesting the food. And we give them protein-rich diet that helps them to grow more biomass. So these are all the factors that we can use to increase the biomass and increase food production. Or the best alternative that we have now is using microorganisms for food production. For example, mycoprotein is a source, protein-rich source from the fungi. So fungi reduces the dependency on the plants and the animals and conserve the biodiversity. And you know, microorganisms are very easy to grow. We can grow them by fermentation. This is a setup of a fermenter. It has a water jacket to maintain the optimum temperature. It has an inlet of oxygen, inlets for nutrients. It has a motor at the top to rotate these pedals. These pedals rotate and they stir the mixture so that the microorganisms do not settle at the bottom and make the temperature and resources even. Now, in the food production, we also use genetic engineering to increase the yield of the crop and making more disease resistant and high yield variety crops. And we can also use microorganisms for food production. Okay, so I hope all these topics are now clear to you. Now you should know and define all these key terms. You should know what is a community, ecosystem, interdependence, stable communities, abiotic factor, biotic factor, predator, prey, pathogen, parasite, competition, abundance, distribution, quadrat, sample size, mean, quantitative sampling, range, median, mode, transact, adaptation, biomass, producers, consumers, water cycle, what is precipitation, condensation, evaporation, transpiration, photosynthesis, respiration, combustion, decomposition, decay cycle, biodiversity, acid rain, smog, eutrophication, biomagnification, global warming, greenhouse effect, trophic levels, pyramids of biomass, numbers, food security, fermenter, biotechnology, microprotein. So you can answer these terms, give a pause to the video, try these questions. If you are still not clear, look at the video again or refer to your textbook. Okay. Now, as always, what is our next step? You should check the specification, make sure everything in the specification is crystal clear to you, and do the exam questions on this topic, which can be found on my website. All these notes along with these slides are there on my website. The link is mentioned in the description box below. If you like this video, then do subscribe to the channel and do not forget to like, comment, and share this video. Also, do click on the bell icon so that you get notified whenever I make a new video. And I promise you I'll be uploading loads of videos useful for you before your exams. Okay, if you still have any doubts, you can take an advantage of our 24/7 chat support on our website, where you can come anytime, post any of your queries and get instant reply. Okay, so I'll see you next in the next video. And if there's any specific video you want me to make a video on, do leave a comment below and I'll make sure I have that up before your exam. Till then, happy revising.